Breaking news, Angelo ISD is looking to shut down 2 elementary schools. We've got the scoop as Dr. Dethloff is live in studio. Plus, a jury trial is underway here in town. We've got more updates and more. I'm Matt Trammell, and this is Live. We'll get to the news in a second, but first, Alejandro's Kitchen and Tequila cooks fresh corn tortillas served warm all day long. Come taste what's on the menu that is packed with unique surprises, like how about a chori queso? That's chorizo with your queso for an appetizer. Or for a more traditionalist, the San Angelo plate includes an enchilada, tamale, and a freshly made taco. Every Friday night is karaoke night from 8 until midnight. Alejandro's Kitchen and Tequila is open 11 to 10 weekdays and 11 to midnight Friday and Saturday. They're on the Tequila Strip right there at 4388 Sherwood Way between Southwest and Sunset. That's Alejandro's Kitchen and Tequila at 4388 Sherwood Way, open every day for lunch and dinner. The jury trial of the state of Texas versus Antonio Gonzalez ramped up today as witnesses began to take the stand. As we told you yesterday, Gonzalez is facing 3 counts of manslaughter and 3 counts of evading arrest causing death. Today, the motors unit that Gonzalez allegedly evaded took the stand to review his body cam footage. In the gruesome video, it revealed that the group, which included Gonzalez, a 17-year-old at the time, and 4 other minors, was traveling at a high speed at the time of the crash. Gonzalez was driving and was ejected from the car. On the video, you could see Gonzalez with his face covered in blood, asking for the police to call his grandmother. One other passenger was seen in the video, but due to the massive amount of damage, the other 3 were not. The court will go until about 5 p.m. today, and it will resume bright and early in the morning. For more details, check out the story only on SanAngeloLive.com. Speaking of crashes in that area, a lunchtime crash sent one driver to the hospital in the Santa Rita area. Around 12:40 p.m., San Angelo police and other first responders were called to a 2-vehicle crash in the intersection of Avenue K and Austin Street. According to Officer Long, the white Ford Expedition was driving westbound on Avenue K, and the Silver Eclipse was traveling south on Austin. The Expedition failed to yield the right-of-way and collided with the Eclipse in the intersection. Long also confirmed that the driver of the Eclipse did not have a driver's license and was cited for that. Early this morning, our editor Yanchis Green received an opinion piece from San Angelo's former mayor, J.W. Lon. As many of you know, Lon lives in Mexico with his husband. He left San Angelo some time ago, but still votes, so from time to time he shares his opinion on issues. This time Lon spoke about the Sanctuary City for the Unborn proposition on this November's ballot. In this piece, he called the abortion ban extreme and divisive. In a quote, Lon stated, "Declaring San Angelo a sanctuary city for the unborn doesn't sound altogether problematic at first blush. But what does something so righteous sounding really mean? Most of my male friends haven't given much thought to the options available to women faced with unwanted and problematic pregnancies. After listening to my female friends more closely, I now apprehend how extreme the proposal is." To read the entire letter, see the story on San Angelo Live's homepage. And now for some breaking news. The San Angelo Independent School District is considering shutting down 2 elementary schools. That's right, the 2 up for debate is Austin Elementary and San Jacinto Elementary. So far, they have not voted on a decision, but with those campuses having less than 300 students, it would likely save the district a ton of money to combined. Stay tuned for later in the show when Superintendent Dr. Detloff joins the program. But before we get to that interview, the Cristobal Cougars will have a tough matchup this Friday night against the Forsan Buffaloes. To get you ready for that, here's Cover 1 analyst James Bellini.
Cristobal is 2-0 in district, and it's been a pretty eventful year for the Cougars. First, they dropped their game against El Dorado 7-0 and then took on Grave Creek and won, but at the expense of their quarterback Kyle Lohman, who was out for a couple of games. Backup Kyle Abalez stepped up and won 2 games in a row, but then the Cougars took on Mason and Brady and lost both of those games. District started after the Cougars' bye week, and they put it on Anthony 37-6. Then last week beat up on Ozona 21-2. The running game has been punishing so far with catcher Joyner, Manuel Rojas, and Caden Carpenter. Joyner has 894 yards and 8 touchdowns on the ground, while Rojas has 279 yards and 4 scores. Carpenter has been a Swiss Army knife of sorts, throwing, rushing, and catching 5 touchdowns combined. You've also got to talk about the offensive line, as this group of seniors up front has been grinding opponents into the dust. This week, the Cougars travel to Forest and take on the Buffaloes, who are 6-1 overall and 2-0 in district. Another thing, they've only given up 65 total points this season. That's 9 points a game, and they've scored 219 points for 31 points a game. The Buffs have about 5 players on the ground who have over 100 yards, and leading the way is running back Kevin Kilgora with 774 yards and 9 touchdowns. The Cougars' front four will have their hands full with Forest Sands' rushing attack. And it's not too early to discuss how this will affect the playoffs. Forest and Cristobal are 1 and 2 respectively, followed by Reagan County at 3 and Sonora at 4. If the Cougars win, they'll be in first place with only the Broncos and Owls left on their schedule. Watch out for our playoff outlooks and matchup previews throughout the week, where Cover 1 analysts break down the coming postseason and how area teams will match up with each other. And for exclusive coaching interviews, score updates, highlights, and more, tune in to Cover 1 on Fridays at around 4, 8, and 10 o'clock, only on SanJoLive.com.
When it comes to unique pieces you can't find anywhere else, Kano's Diamonds and Coins is your one-stop shop. With over 24 years in the diamond and coin industry, Kano's Diamonds and Coins is West Texas's choice for diamonds, jewelry, coins, silver, and gold. Owner Bill Kano stands by his work and offers free consultations, including estate jewelry. Don't just trust anyone with your valuables. Come see the staff at Kano's at 1016 West Beauregard in San Angelo. And to you.
Thank you, Matt, and we're back. I have a very special guest today, the Superintendent of Schools for the San Angelo Independent School District, Dr. Carl Detloff. Welcome, Carl.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the opportunity.
You know, it's a real honor to have someone of your stature on our great show.
I don't believe that for a minute, but it's good to be here anyway.
Good to be here. Well, we're going to talk some school policy.
All right.
And some of the things that are happening at the district.
Absolutely.
I guess let's start off with good news, okay?
You bet.
Obviously, we have San Angelo Central High School football.
You know, and they've been really a cornerstone of a lot of wins on the gridiron the last 14, 15 years, and they're having a tremendous season. I think they're 5-2, 5 wins, 2 losses, and they're just really seem to be gelling at the right time, and we're excited about their future. Coach Crane is kind of he's, you know, this is, I guess, his second, third year at the helm, and he's kind of has his team organized and ready, and they're showing some W's in the win column, so it's exciting.
Well, the important thing for Central right now is they're 2-0 in district, which puts
that's critical.
Them all. Yeah.
So, you know, we anticipate another good playoff run by them, and you've probably heard me say this, Joe, a few times, but, you know, to me, what extracurricular sports do for a school district, and it doesn't matter if it's speech and debate, choir, cheerleading, soccer, volleyball, or on Friday night lights, but kids their GPAs are higher, so their grade points averages are higher, their attendance rates are higher, and their graduation rates are higher. Those are proven facts with kids that participate in extracurricular activities. So we want them involved in clubs, sports, whatever it may be. Just get them involved and hooked in with other kids and organizations.
And not everyone can be the star football player. You know, for example, I'm a follower of Texas A&M football, and this is a little sidebar, but you know, we have a team full of all 5-star, 4-star recruits, and they're not gelling together.
No, you
right?
and I have some maroon blood in common. Yes. And you know, speaking of not everyone can be a star, you know, for some reason I played college basketball, sat on the bench a lot, and I probably have the stature for lacrosse instead, but for some reason I chose basketball, but it's the best thing I ever did. So there's a lot of benefit of being a team member and on a team and fighting through some adversity.
Right, exactly. Well, another thing that they're doing, particularly I'm interested in this one personally, you know, the arts. The arts are kind of like a universal language. And if someone can get good at playing the clarinet or the violin or something like that teaches discipline, that teaches the ability to listen, and you kind of, you know, forge your own way with music. And you have a very rapidly growing music program, particularly I think with the symphony at Central.
Absolutely, the orchestra continues to really push out, you know, top of the tier statewide candidates and involved in competition that continues to win. So we're very proud of our orchestra units at both of our high schools. And another just group that's incredible is our mariachi group,
right?
And our band. I mean, when you talk about Friday nights and we talk about Lakeview football and San Angelo football, you think about how many participants and students are out there on the field. So our bands are pushing 300, 150 at one campus, 300 at the other. So a lot of kids are involved, and our mariachi kids have really, they've just kind of been a fixture of our culture in San Angelo, and they go all over the place to events. In fact, probably the best, this is my 14th year in San Angelo ISD, Joe. It's my 8th year as superintendent, 14th year here, but my 32nd year in public schools. Probably one of the highlights of my entire career was traveling to Washington, D.C. last year with our mariachi students. And it was funded by a local philanthropist, Mario Castillo, and it was just an incredible adventure. The kids, many of our kids are from under-resourced families in our school district. About 65% are from under-resourced families in our school district. And just opportunity for them and me and others to go there. We played at the European Ambassador's house. I say we, they played and I watched. But at the European Ambassador's home, we just got to tour some incredible events and places. We were in the backyard of James Monroe, the 5th President of the United States.
Right.
In the war, you're a history buff, I know, and in the War of 1812, the White House burned down. They were restructuring the White House, and we were actually at the home of the president in the backyard in 1817.
The mariachi groups at San Angelo ISD have actually, they're kind of driving the UIL, I would say.
They really are, and so they just started the competition kind of statewide the last couple of years, and are doing extremely well. And then our bands continue to excel as well. So I was never very gifted in the arts, but I tell you what, I think you and I have talked about this before too. The arts extracurricular, it's really the front porch of an institution or a system, and it continues to be the front porch of ours.
Well, with all that good stuff going on, there's a trend, and I think this is probably true for all public schools, where we have a declining enrollment. If you go back and look at San Angelo ISD enrollment stats probably 10 years ago, we had close to 15,000 students.
Yes, sir. In
fact, now we're down to almost 13,000.
Absolutely, a couple interesting trends.
But with that, the county just went above 120,000 people. So
we're growing.
Our population is growing, but our main public school is declining. Where are these students going?
We've done a lot of research in that area. I think this is an interesting stat, so I'll kind of start up here and filter it down. Statewide, after the COVID pandemic, we're in a Texas School Alliance with basically the top 40 school districts in Texas in enrollment and quality, and 4% of and basically there's 5.4 million students in Texas. The Texas School Alliance educates about 2.5 million of them. So it's a great group to be
almost
with.
half.
Almost half.
Yeah.
And in that group, everybody has experienced on the average a 4% decline in enrollment last year.
Is this over COVID?
Over COVID. So with the pandemic, kids chose either a lot were homeschooling, a lot moved, and we have used a lot of, really technological advances too to try to track our kids, and we're finding them a lot, but they may be homeschooled, they may move out of the city limits and go to a smaller school district, they may have relocated, but I think if you look at the areas that are still growing are the suburban areas, obviously, of the Metroplex, Austin, the ATX, San Antonio. Those areas are still growing, but if you look at the kind of the traditional proper school districts in West Texas, such as Lubbock ISD, Abilene ISD, Amarillo ISD, San Angelo ISD. I keep track of their superintendents. I mean, we communicate weekly. We are all facing a decline in enrollment, pretty serious. So when I got here 14 years ago, we were about, like you said, 15,000 students with our Head Start. And we always averaged about 14,500 K through 12. And right now we're at about 13,600. So we've experienced about a 900 student loss in the last 3 years.
But the question is, with the population growing, even statewide, I mean, Texas population is booming.
Absolutely.
And you're saying these top half of the school districts are losing students.
Enrollment, yeah.
So do you think they're going to places like, I mean, have you tracked like TLCA? And, here in the Concho Valley, we kind of have school choice.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, if you want to send your kid to Cristobal,
we've
you
got a lot of small school districts around and charter schools.
I think are you seeing growth in those areas?
They're kind of staying really the same as they've always been. It's kind of parallel. I mean, and in fact, we have back and forth with all of our smaller school districts, our charter schools. Kids come in and out of those school districts and transfer in and out of our system. So it is kind of school choice. But I think my concern for just the future of public education in general is we've got to get kids in school. I'll leave it up to the parents to choose what's best for their family and their children, but we've got to get kids in school.
So you think kids are actually just dropping out and working at McDonald's?
And I think there's so much homeschooling now. And there's some quality individuals that homeschool as well, but I think the majority, I think kids need a classroom teacher in front of them on a daily basis. And what happened also is you have a lot of, just with the technology now and being able to have virtual school. So there's been some silver linings in COVID, but also some detriments. Right.
Well, they found I've read some studies about the remote learning doesn't work nearly as good as in the classroom.
No,
and you learned that too,
right?
It doesn't. Because the San Angelo ISD used that on COVID money, and you invested heavily into remote learning.
And we propped it up quickly. And the same thing as you said, when kids are not in front of a teacher, I mean, you've got to learn. We want to be innovative. We want to have student engagement. But at the same time, you've got to teach kids to read, write, and do math.
Right.
And that has, those are foundational skills. And so the best way to do that is with a teacher with 4 or 5 students in front of them in a small group.
Really? 4 or 5 people?
Absolutely. Yeah,
you're
small.
You're going to hold it to 4 or 5 people?
I will. 4 to 6.
4 to 6.
Extend it.
Get a little bigger. Matt, do you have that first chart? We're going to talk about the elementary school enrollment here. We kind of drill down into the numbers a little bit. And if we can pull up that chart and look at this. This is elementary school enrollment. This is from your last board meeting last night. And these are the 5 lowest, 5 elementary schools with the lowest enrollment. And of course, you see there with San Jacinto with 271 all the way up to Crockett with 322. And your average elementary school enrollment is 375 kids. So you had a study. You had some company come in here and studied this, and they decided you have a facility study, and so you're looking at possibly combining some of these elementary schools.
Absolutely. So one of the things I think that's critical for us is as we look at our elementary schools, we have 17 elementary schools for a district our size. Even if we were at 15,000, that's too small. So if you look at
the schools are
too small. Now the challenge of that is we love in San Angelo our neighborhood school concept. There's a lot of positivity around the neighborhood school. I certainly understand that. But if you look across Texas, most elementary schools are between 500 and 600 students, maybe even a little larger. So you just have to look at your capacity study, and for us to be really good stewards of our taxpayers and good stewards of our community dollars, we need to look at combination and combining schools and the merger of schools, just because the economics of it.
So the catalyst for this is not only declining enrollment, slightly declining enrollment,
yes.
but also the age of the facilities, right?
Our infrastructure, we have a couple of schools that were built in 1903. And while
that would be John H. Reagan.
That would be. Right? And while that's a point of pride, it's also causes some infrastructure issues. Right. I mean, I think we can, even if you live in a home built in 1903 or 1963, there's issues with facilities that are really aging. And if you look at schools, or any school architecture firm will tell you this, but if you look at schools 50 to 70 years old, which we have a lot of, that's typically when you see some of these infrastructure issues. So I know we've got some plumbing situations at some of our schools, such as Altaloma, and so not to mention the whole town, huh?
Right.
But we're
is it on the upper plane or the lower plane,
right? So, but I think by combining these schools, we also open up just some innovative practices for kids as well. Instead of having 2 fourth grade teachers. You might have 4 fourth grade teachers. And, there's just better opportunities for learning. There's better opportunities to consolidate our resources and use them for science, technology, engineering, math labs. So there's a lot of ways to merging and combining our schools really helps us. Also, if you think of staff capacity, instead of having 2 principals, if you combine 2 schools, you've got 1 principal.
Right.
So there's a scale of economy there.
So the thing that people always complain about is the administrative staff, the administrative overhead.
That's right.
That's what you
traditionally.
Yes,
always.
I always hear about we don't hire enough teachers. We have too many
That's
administrators.
Right. And we've reduced 4 administrative positions, including cabinet members, this year. Right now. So because, again, we want to do our share, and knowing that we have reduced 900 students, we need to do our share too and become streamlined and efficient.
So last night at the school board, you had the presentation from the consulting firm.
We did.
Kind of looked at all the 17 elementary schools. And Matt, can you pull up one of those maps? We have a map here.
And Joe, this architecture firm, Park Hill, they are located in Lubbock, and they do a lot of work in West Texas. So they kind of understand our dynamics and the culture. And so I know that many schools, such as even Snyder ISD, Lubbock ISD, they've worked in and around these areas also, and in looking at shuttering schools and combining schools.
So the first proposal, and this hadn't been approved yet, is looking at taking John H. Reagan and combining it with San Jacinto. That's San Jacinto down in the bottom right. So you can see that on Google Maps. One's above the loop, north of the loop, and one's north of the Houston Heart, one's south of the Houston Heart. One's in East San Angelo, one's kind of like in the northeast side. Yeah.
One of the things we looked at on this too, Joe, is staying within the same feeder pattern. And when I say feeder pattern, I mean which high school, middle schools do you go to? So one thing that was critical for us is for San Jacinto and Reagan are in the same feeder pattern. So in this situation, what we have is that we would repurpose San Jacinto, move kids to John Reagan, which was part of the '08 bond. So it's been refurbished in the '08 bond. We'd move children from San Jacinto to Reagan, which it has the capacity. So again, a better use of our facility capacity. And then in that repurposing, we would make San Jacinto what we call, and many school districts have this, an early childhood campus. So your pre-K, your 4-year-old, your 5-year-olds would attend San Jacinto, along with many of our special needs students too, to integrate. And so they have typical
Where are these students right now?
They're pre-K are scattered across our school district. So there's usually 2 or 3 sections at many of our schools. And so we would consolidate pre-K and have them under one roof all together, which again also kind of helps with your academic planning even at the 4-year-old level.
All right, so a voter or taxpayer is going to ask, how much money you're going to save combining these 2 schools?
In one of the proposals that the firm demonstrated last night, it would be, I think, $500,000.
A year?
So $500,000 a year by having 2 go into 1.
Which is your total budget's what, 120?
120 million.
So 120 million, 500,000. That's still pretty significant.
It is. It is. And then when you think, I've mentioned this before too. When you think about teacher retention and recruitment, we have been very fortunate in San Angelo, and I know it's hard to say that because the cost of living is just increasing tenfold, and we know that purchasing of homes, rent, etc., is going through the roof. We all see that in our daily lives. But our board of trustees, 6 of the last 7 years, we've received a multi-percentage raise each year. And again, some of that is retention.
When you say multi-percentage, what do you mean?
2 to 3% every year.
I see.
So,
Okay.
and basically, you and I know that that's about a cost of living adjustment.
Right.
The 3%.
Except for this year, now it's like 8%.
Yeah. Now, and that's great that it's 3%. But again, the cost of living is higher. But in saying that, it cost SAISD about $900,000 for a 1% raise for all staff.
I see.
So if you look at this also,
It's
even
a
that
0.5%.
500,
It's a 0.5% raise.
it can generate over time,
And
that commitment
Matt,
to
can
teachers.
you go back to the map, or you got the new map? All right, we'll talk about the next one. So, you go this is the old map. Okay, so we're talking the neighborhoods. So you really do have two divergent neighborhoods, kind of. If you know San Angelo, I know it from being all around here for 10 years covering the news. So you kind of have like this East San Angelo vibe mixing with this, I guess, North Central.
Well, no, those are within a mile distance, aren't they?
They are, but still, that Houston heart really cuts through. And it's kind of redefined how San Angelo, melds together.
It does, Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's going to be I think the drawback. People are going to, if they rise up about this.
Mm-hmm.
But the benefits are $500,000 savings per year.
And some just not only cost effectiveness, but some instructional methodologies too, with more things at a campus, more
plus you have a
teachers.
Facility now that you can use for things that you have scattered all over the district.
Mm-hmm.
You can centralize it there, so it's repurposing that facility in that San Jacinto. So I take it you're going to still keep the John H. Reagan name.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We've been down that road before, haven't we,
We
Joe?
have, but you
and I
remember,
together?
yes, you remember during the Robert E. Lee debates of 2020, your school board president, Max Parker, made a very impassioned speech.
Very eloquent.
It was
yes.
very good. I mean,
yes.
I think as a lawyer and attorney, he finally found his niche.
He was our resident historian and
yes,
really laid it out
everything.
well.
But he said John H. Reagan, despite all the bad things you want to say about him being the Postmaster General of the Confederacy, was, after the war, became Texas's finest statesman ever.
That would be
the
a true
finest
statement.
statesman ever. So anyway, let's go to the next map. These are the other two elementary schools that you're looking at combining. It's Austin Elementary and McGill. Now, I would argue that these two neighborhoods have a lot more similarities than the other two.
And so, in this plan, if you're looking at Austin, the San Jacinto move to Reagan, we're scheduled to, that would be an August 23 move. Mm-hmm. So that would be a very quick, expedient timeline. This move, however, would be August of 24, Austin to McGill. And what we would do is either repurpose or shutter Austin. You may remember Austin Elementary was not touched in the 08 bond. Mm-hmm. So there are some infrastructure challenges with Austin Elementary and just an aging facility.
But the unique or the irony of this is McGill Elementary has a lot of needs too, infrastructure-wise.
But let me tell you the good part.
And it was used as an example during your bid
Absolutely.
for the 2018 bond.
So this is the exciting piece,
piece
of school consolidation, is that we have enough funds in our fund balance. Mm-hmm. And so most school districts try to have 3 months operational expenses in their fund balance. We have a very healthy fund balance because we've been extremely frugal during the pandemic and COVID and really have a big savings account. It's like Texas Rainy Day Fund. So what we are proposing to do is utilize those monies to build kind of what I call half a school at McGill. So to try to take about $20 million, infuse that into McGill with a partial complete renovation. So we would have a new school for basically half of the deal.
Now, 4 years ago, $26 million would have bought you a new school.
It would have.
So today, with inflation and cost of living,
20 will buy you half, probably.
Really? So you think it's about $40 million to rebuild an elementary school?
Most elementary schools from 600 to 800 students are probably about 29 to 35 million.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Why don't you just tear the thing down and get a little mini bond?
Well, there's some components of it that are still good. And again, I just want to reiterate, this is without going to the taxpayers. Mm-hmm. So, we can build a partial McGill, half a school, without going to the taxpayers. And I think San Angelo needs to see those innovative, creative spaces that we see around town. And so, my hope that this will spark an interest with our aging facilities that over time, 5 years from now or whenever that may be, that we may need to go to bond again.
What are you going to do with the old Austin Elementary School? Are you going to tear it down?
There's a couple options. You could utilize that for our pay school, which is, credit recovery situation where they're independent drivers anyway. So these are students that have unique circumstances that may be anywhere from 16 to 20 or 22 that are independent drivers. They go on their own now. So you could either do that, you could utilize the gym area. I think we would probably raise the areas that are substandard. You could even have a community park there. So we'll definitely keep it and try to repurpose it.
Because one of the things that that people always talk about is that old elementary schools over there by Holy Angels Church. It's been sitting there for years.
I talk about it too. And people think it's ours.
Yeah, they think it's yours, and they say, "Well, why can't you just open that school back up?" Right?
Yeah, we sold that 20 years ago probably, and now I agree, it's an eyesore. People think it's ours, and it's not.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a lot of changes. Now you're going to go your proposal. They haven't voted on it yet, right? We're just
no. And so we received the official recommendation from the architects last night at our board meeting, and so now our charge is, in fact, with our communications department and our leadership team, we've even just this morning met quickly to look at some potential dates for public forums, some town hall public forums to get input, and not only input, but really just, is there anything we're missing in this proposal? I mean, we know that we've got to, utilize and be good stewards of our monies, and we have too many facilities that we could be better stewards of our money by combining those facilities. So we just want, and many times the public will let you know, oh, you're missing this, and they're right. So we're going to have some public forums to do that over the next 2 or 3 months, and then but we're also on a quick timeline because we want to get these kids ready for school, whether that's August 23 or August 24.
The McGill consolidation with Austin, you're looking in 2024?
Yes, sir.
So you're going to be able to build half an elementary school in about a year.
As long as the supply chain is working.
One last thing before we go. You're talking about the steward of the people's money. Obviously we have an election coming up on November 8th with the lieutenant governor's race, and the big thing they talk about there is the tax rate. One side says that we're cutting the funds to our public schools too much, and we could find more money. The other one says, oh no, I've capped your property tax there, that 3.5%. The cap rate, the rollback rate. Y'all were able to lower the tax rate this year
significally.
Was it 16 cents or 13 cents?
Yeah, well, and it's
lowered, 13 cents.
It's lowered 16 or 17 cents in the last 5 years, our tax rate. So, and that's what's hard to swallow. I'm a homeowner as well as you guys, and so what happens is that's hard to swallow when your property values are going up. Your tax rate's going down, but your property value's going up, so it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah.
You're thinking, well,
your gross amount you're paying is still going to be more.
I pay more for my home, and you're right, but we have decreased the tax rate every year significantly. But at some point also, we'll have to, as a community, come together and think, okay, do we want aging facilities? And whether we agree or disagree, aesthetically, kids and families are choosing facilities that look more like Starbucks than a factory. And so we just
build
need
a bunch of Starbucks.
Build a bunch of Starbucks, and then you get coffee and caffeine too, huh?
Yeah, exactly. One more question, and you're in the statewide world. Where are they successful in getting these bonds passed and building these large fancy facilities?
There's still and this is going to be close to being accurate. I think 2 years ago or 3 years ago, the bond passing rate was like at 67%. So like 67% of all school bonds in Texas passed. I think that dropped down a little bit since the pandemic, and it may have been in the upper 50s or mid 50s percent. So and that's the thing. I think the benefit.
So statewide. Before the pandemic, 67% of all bond referendums passed.
Were passing.
Okay. And then pandemic kind of dropped it down because people kind of unsure about their future.
Absolutely, or where they're going to live.
Yeah.
And
so
people could move around.
And so give me an example of a success story that you could think
I
of.
think the school districts that pass bonds are typically high growth. So they can pass a...
So like Frisco or Katy
Lubbock Cooper.
Lubbock Cooper, yeah, there you go.
So they can pass a significant bond, but without much tax increase.
I see.
We both remember, I think in our last bond in 18, I think it was a 14 cents.
Right.
I think 14 cents tax
which
increase.
Is significant.
It is significant, yeah. And so I understand the trepidation with families and communities of wanting to pass that, but at the same time, I think we're going to have to make an investment because the larger school districts or the growing school districts are able to pass these bonds without very much tax rate or none at all.
Right, and that's why they're passing.
But we know we're not growing. So this makes it really hard. That's why I'm excited about the potential to add to McGill Elementary, and also, look at some additions to Fannin Elementary too.
Well, that's been kind of a hallmark of San Angelo ISD, is to take money and put it aside. I mean, you did the tennis courts. You did a whole lot of renovations without a bond over the last 10 or 15 years.
Fort Concho classroom addition, Glen Middle School cafeteria classroom addition, all of our vestibules. So,
and that's what the conservatives want.
Absolutely.
Like the conservatives want you to be good stewards of the money. And I think Lanny Lehman, I'll just give it.
Yeah, he's excellent.
Here's a business guy who donated all his time to professionalize
for
that
20
board.
years.
Yes.
For 20 years.
And I think it was his vision that kind of started that ball rolling. I've seen a lot of school districts, and I don't see many school districts run as well as ours has been.
No, and we benefited immensely from his financial acumen and his expertise, and we'll miss him greatly. We've got a great educator on our board now, Pam Duncan. So Pam understands San Angelo and has been an involved community member for a long time, and an educator, and so we're excited to have her too. But yeah, that financial pedigree that Lanny has, being a successful CEO,
to be able to have the vision to do that. That's a big thing. But anyway, this has been Carl Detloff, Dr. Carl Detloff. He is the head of the San Angelo Independent School District, talking about breaking news today.
Yes, sir.
We're
hot off the press.
Hot off the press. 2 elementary schools about to go.
Yep.
Well,
so
if we can get
6 to 3. 6 to 3.
Exactly. If we can get the people to come together on that. Also, obviously, you want the feedback on it first.
Yes, and so if we're going to take action, it'd be in the spring, but we want to be quick about it, but we want to be thoughtful because our kids deserve to have great facilities and great academics, and we want to do that.
All right. Well, thank you for
yes,
coming
sir.
on our show
Appreciate
today.
the opportunity.
And back to you.
Hey folks, Todd Price from Jim Bass Ford. Have you noticed the last couple of years cars and trucks have been overpriced? Well, not anymore. At Jim Bass, we have a slew of F-150s priced around $4,000 off MSRP. And my Uncle Perk used to tell me, Todd, opportunities are never lost. Somebody takes the ones you miss. Don't y'all miss this one. Jim Bass Ford, Houston Hart Road, or 24/7 at bassbunch.com.
And that's our show. We want to thank those guys from SAISD for coming down and talking to us. Always good to have them in studio. This is Live Daily News. We're here Monday through Friday at 4 o'clock. That's right, every weekday, 4 o'clock, where you can check out on all kinds of stuff, including the news for the day and, of course, an interesting interview. We thank you guys for watching. Make sure you follow us on all our socials and download that San Angelo Live app. For all San Angelo